Good evening, everyone. My name is Andrea Yarbrough, and I am with Innovation and Creativity Department at the Art Institute of Chicago. Welcome to today's virtual conversation with Brandon Breaux and Eric Williams. We are so glad to have you joining us virtually, and we hope that this digital format can offer a chance to stay connected to the Art Institute from home. This program is being recorded, so if you'd like to revisit in the future, you're more than welcome to do so. I now have the pleasure of introducing our speakers, Eric Williams, who is the founder and creative director of the Silver Room, an incubator for innovation that acts as a retail space, art gallery, and community event center located in Hyde Park. Williams has successfully cultivated and positively transformed Chicago communities since 1997, creating seminal events such as the Harper Court Summer Music Series, Rome Folk Stories, Connect South Shore Arts Festival, Connect Hyde Park Arts Festival, and the highly acclaimed Silver Room Sound System Block Party. In 2019, he established the Silver Room Foundation to support, mentor, and provide space for creative entrepreneurs on the South Side of Chicago. His most recent venture, Bronzeville Winery, is a community-based gathering space and restaurant in the historic South Side neighborhood. Eric holds a degree in finance from the University of Illinois at Chicago and was a 2018 Loeb Fellow at the Harvard Graduate School of Design. Joining Eric in conversation today is Brandon Breaux, a fine artist and designer working here in Chicago. His creative experience consists of painting, sculpture, web, video, print, and interactive projects. Widely known as the artist behind all three of Chance the Rapper's iconic album covers, Breaux's recent project, 28 Days of Greatness, features portraits of Black artists, activists, and educators from around the world. In honor of Black History Month, Breaux revealed a new portrait on his Instagram account each day throughout the month of February in 2021. In collaboration with the Rebuild Foundation, the portraits were also displayed outside of the Stony Island Arts Bank. And so I am very, very excited to have Eric and Brandon both here in conversation today. So thanks to y'all so much, first and foremost.
Thank
So
you.
we're gonna go ahead and actually just kind of dive right in with Brandon and really just start to kind of talk a little bit about greatness and this project, 28 Days of Greatness. And so maybe before you even give us the background about the project and kind of the origins and so forth, can you just talk to us about greatness? What's greatness to you?
I think for me, greatness is really an approach to live at the edge of like one's potential, like effort, may look effort, work, creativity, whatever it might be, made to look effortless, and just yeah, like greatness. I don't know. I'm drawing a blank of words. I mean, I think when I was thinking about the series, I was thinking of another way to articulate uh, um, a condition for honoring people during Black History Month, right? So excellence is a word we've been using a lot in the last, I don't know, 5 years or so. But I don't know, greatness felt good, and it felt accessible, like the language felt accessible. So greatness it is.
Okay, so tell us more about the project and how it came to be.
Yeah, so the 28 Days is a project that came to be from sort of a couple things. One, a desire to exercise a daily practice, art practice, and like sort of kill two birds with one stone, so to speak, with a meditation practice too. So right, so it was a practice of gratitude. So it was an exercise and showing gratitude for people in my life, people who I admire, people I collaborate with, and offer thanks to them, show gratitude to them, and at the same time exercise my craft. So out of those ideas that came about in 2020, I did what was called the Reset Sunrise Meditation series. So I did 150 days of meditations at sunrise, 6 a.m. because sunrise changes throughout the year. But at 6 a.m. I did a meditation every day live on Instagram, and it was really to help people with the anxiety that I was most aware of that came from isolation, that came from quarantine, and that daily kind of momentum really led to me wanting to do something with art daily. And so that's how it started. And I talked to Theaster about it one day. He really liked the idea, and I think the discipline about it, like the consistency and the discipline, and then offer to assist in whatever way he could. So that's how it was born. I decided for it to be on Instagram because everybody was on Instagram. So yeah, that's 28 days of
Okay.
birds.
So I guess, Eric, hearing kind of Brandon's backstory around, why he decided to do 28 Days of Greatness and wanting to choose folks who he was in community with and that he wanted to honor. Can you share some of your thoughts about being included in the project?
Yeah, I mean, when he first told me about it, he asked me would I be a part of it. I'm like, of course, it was an honor. I knew a lot of people that he had chosen. A lot of them were friends of mine, and of course, his execution of the actual portraiture was beautiful. But I think more importantly, what he wrote, about each person, was just very heartfelt and thoughtful. So I was very honored to be a part of it.
So Brandon, why did you choose Eric?
Why did I choose Eric? Eric's amazing, man. Eric, from the moment I met Eric, I think I really met Eric, really come to know Eric, because I've seen Eric in the Silver Room in Wicker Park like years ago. And we hadn't been formally introduced. But from when I met Eric for real, and I said this to you yesterday, Andrea, when I met him for real, was when he was doing the load at Harvard. There's a conference called Black in Design, and I got invited to speak. And it blew my mind, like the whole experience of going and meeting Eric was was a part of that. And yeah, it's always been, he's always been just so encouraging, so open, and authentic. And when you think of the Silver Room, you think of that, like I feel like the space echoes that energy. The block party echoes that energy. So yeah, that's how we met, and that's why I chose Eric. As one of those people. I always see him as a person in community. It's never about flash or anything like big names with him. I mean, it's very honest, very straightforward, and very personable. So that's why. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for that. And you're right. I think the first time we actually connected was in Cambridge, actually, which was kind of funny because I've seen you around here for many, many years. We connected at the house, at the Loeb house, and we got a chance to sit down and talk. And again, you've always just been like this really humble, quiet guy who just does really fantastic, great work. So it was just nice to see you in that setting.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
That's beautiful. So I want to talk a little bit more about community and I think the block party specifically. But Eric, can you maybe give us an introduction to the Silver Room and talk a little bit more about that as your community space and kind of practice?
Sure. So the Silver Room, we opened in 1997 on the north side. If I could back up a little bit, it was born out of a few different things. One, my background was in business and finance. But what I actually did for a living, I didn't work in finance for that long. I was a street vendor. I was a street peddler in Chicago for 10 years. On the trains, Cubs games, you name it, But there was a place in Wicker Park called a Lit X. And Lit X, another level, was a place that we all hung out. This is in the early 90s. It was a place for poetry. It was a place for community. It was a place for just all the creatives on the north side to hang out. And I was very much inspired by that place. It was a bookstore. It was a little bit of everything. And so the guy that owned it actually asked me he met me on the street, and he asked me to put some of my stuff in his store. And that brought me to Wicker Park. And so I just love the energy of the neighborhood. And so fast forward a couple of years later, I decided to have my own space down the street. But it was that spirit of that place that actually led me to open up the Silver Room. And plus, because of my background, DJ and music, I wanted to have a place that wasn't just retail. So when we opened up, it was retail because we have to make money to pay the rent. But it was also a place for my friends to do poetry. My friends of mine who were visual artists, they could hang stuff on the walls. I had turntables in the place because I DJ and mess around a little bit. So it became this like very eclectic mix of retail and arts and culture.
Dope, dope, dope. Devin, can we bring up some of the images of the Silver Room that Eric has to show? And Eric, maybe you can talk to us a little bit about the image that we see on the screen right now.
Yeah, sure. So, fast forward to this past year when everything shut down. It shut down so quickly, I think I had maybe 7, 8 days before I knew I had to close. And we were closed for about 3.5 months. And we shifted to virtual, of course, because we had to. It's not my favorite. I love in person. I love to touch and feel and smell. And so we were still trying to do some things in the store. So we started doing some recordings for our website. And this is Ami. She came in and she performed in the space. So she was playing like it was a store full of people, and I just love that energy of still just being resilient and just having to go with the flow. So this is one of the things we did while we were closed.
That's beautiful. And so, safe to assume that the block party did not happen in the midst of the pandemic. But can you talk a little bit about the block party, its kind of origins and how it's grown over the course of the last couple of years?
Yeah, sure. So the block party started on the north side. And really, it was in response to not being included in the other north side festivals, to be honest with you. I was on the board of a few chamber of commerce, and I would say, hey, we don't have any black and brown folks performing. I mean, it was that simple. And every year it seemed to be another excuse. And so I called up some friends and said, we'll just do our own thing. And I did it in the alley next to the original Silver Room. And it was 100 people, like 100 people, literally 100 people, maybe. Some friends of mine DJ, some friends did graffiti, some friends came out, put down cardboard and break dance. And it was really like this whole grassroots thing. And it was just a great time. And I said, well, we'll do it again next year. And it was 200-300 people came the next year. And then it was, the next year, then 500 or 600. And, next thing you know, last year was 45,000 people came out. Once we moved to Hyde Park, it actually grew. And I think because we don't have many events like this out here, honestly, and to have a celebration in your community on the street. And I love the fact that it's on an actual street because you can transform these spaces. We used to cars and parking. I think when you open it up and there's people on the street, it has a different kind of energy. And Hyde Park is just full of people and there's joy. And I love this photo because it's just people just having a good time, and for me, the block party it's a metaphor in some ways, an allegory in some ways for us coming together. Because the original idea was that I would put it together, I would pay for it, and some friends of mine who were creative would come and they would perform, and some other friends would come and volunteer, and we'd have this great party. We wouldn't have to exchange any kind of money. That's so like utopian idea of what can happen when people come together. So it's changed a whole bunch. It's not $100 event anymore. But I think the spirit is still there. I think people feel that, and it's all ages, all generations. I mean, everybody's included, and it's just something that people look forward to. So, of course, we could do it the last couple of years, but we're looking forward to doing it 2022.
Absolutely. And Brandon and I spent some time yesterday talking about just kind of social spaces in the city where you get to connect with different people. So Brandon, I'm wondering, can you share some thoughts about, what it means to kind of create these social spaces as a way of engaging and even building community?
Yeah, I think that it's really important to have space to do that. And I like what Eric said too about shutting off the street and being able to occupy that space in sort of a different way. And whether it's a block that you are very familiar with, if you walk down many different times in your life, or someplace you visited for the first time, block parties is a unique experience to engage. So I think that's important. I think coming up as an artist and a designer, I wouldn't have been able to grow as much as I did if there wasn't community, if there wasn't opportunities to engage. and Hyde Park has always been a place for that for me in my life and my friends and family. We used to go dance and make art and all the stuff at Promontory Point in Hyde Park through the Park District program that they had there, or we would perform at the Kenwood talent shows. It was all this place that that you just go to express yourself, go to Frontline Books, and just stay there for hours, hang out at the Medici, Choli. It was a really great space for teenagers and younger folks to engage in community, and like safe is like one of the safest areas. Felt that way on the South Side, and in an area that also supported the arts, and you could feel it. You could feel it when you walk around Hyde Park. You can feel it at the time. You can still feel it now. So I think creating those spaces are very important, whether we're coming together to do yoga, meditation, or cipher. So yeah, that's what I would have. That's what I would say about that. Chicago has had, over time, I feel like Chicago has had some key moments. Another key moment for us was Gallery 37, and how that changed a lot of like young people's like lives, being able to connect with other kids around the city they would not have known, because we know how Chicago, segregation in Chicago and how Chicago's set up. Like, I didn't meet kids from the North Side often, but Gallery 37 allowed me to connect with kids from Southwest, North Side, kids that stayed downtown, all these other places. So, movements are formed when people who otherwise wouldn't see one another get a chance to coalesce, to build and create.
Yeah, definitely. There's like a lot of things around, partnership and collaboration and so forth that are coming up. Brandon, can you talk a little bit about the collaboration with Rebuilt Foundation, specifically with having a physical presence for 28 Days of Greatness?
Yes. So I don't remember at what point it became obvious, but at some point it became really obvious to have the work present and visible for people during this time outside. I think our first ideas we're thinking about wheat pasting, some things, or having a wall kind of set up for something like that. But soon after, I think since it was a very personal thing, right? The people featured in the 28 days were people who I wanted to connect with over this time, where maybe I couldn't see them, couldn't give them a hug, couldn't work together in the same space as much as we used to. So it provided an opportunity to extend that hand and make that connection. And because it was so personal, it makes sense that the people in the city would be able to go somewhere and see or interact with the work somehow outside. And I think that's what really brought it to life, brought it to life and made it a real thing for people, because you can kind of drive by and see. And I would see people interacting with the art, like walking down the street and just looking at each portrait, like really like, oh, okay, Sadly, someone came in the middle of the night and took those pieces. So we don't have those pieces anymore. But I think it's a good sign. And when I talked to the Yash about it, he was like, you can't tell me that people on the South Side don't care about art. So it was really a great experience, and I'm very, very glad to have had that time to reflect, to move me to do projects like that, and it has affected my practice in a lot of ways. But I think I did more to answer your question, but I'm gonna stop there.
No, that's great. It's funny that the images came up missing, because we had this conversation about portraiture and like representational art, and what I feel like my challenges are with that. And can you share a little bit more about how you think about portraiture and representation, and why you chose to make portraits of folks?
Yeah. So I think portraits are like, and we spoke about this yesterday a little bit. It's like one of the greatest gifts that you can get from an artist. Like, sit down, let me do your portrait. So it was my way of also like saying thank you for all the times that we worked together. Thank you for the times where I was broke and I couldn't really pay you what I should have been able to pay you at the time, but you still did the work because we were tight like that, So it was like it was time. It was an opportunity to also to do that for people who've been down since like way, way, way before. So that's why portraiture, and that's why making it really personal, and like everyday folks. I think a lot of people, a lot of artists can sometimes get overlooked or only celebrated when they hit a certain like milestone. And most unfortunate examples of when people pass, like when people are no longer with us. And at that time, it was really present in the air with everybody that you don't know how much time you're going to have with the people in your life. We lost a lot of people last year, and it was scary to not know, how your family was doing, to check in and hope everything was okay. So it was important for that as well, to celebrate people that we are adjacent to while we're here at this time. So I think that's why portraiture, we relate to portraiture, especially when portraiture of Black folks, portraiture of people that you feel like represent you, that could be you. I think when people see any type of portraiture, at some level they see a mirror, right? You see yourself, you identify at some degree. We don't get a chance to see a lot, especially like publicly like that. We haven't had in the past see representation like Black folks in portraiture. Not only in all types, so yeah, I think it was really important, or it's really important to have those examples. And I just kind of wanted to provide my perspective on that. I think artists often feel like they need to paint Obama, they need to paint this celebrity figure to bring attention to their work. But I think there's something about like really celebrating the people that we actually know, that it just distinguishes it and makes it more heartfelt. That's why the stories were so important. I tried to write about the first time I met these people, all of my friends, in those captions, to really create the context and to tell people locate them in my story or in my life, right? And I think to hear that, to even hear somebody's perspective on the context in which you met is often rewarding, right? Because you get to hear it from another perspective. Yeah, so I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the writing part too. So yeah.
Dope. Eric, really quick, I want to take us back to this conversation around collaborations, partnerships, and so forth, because while the Silver Room is a retail space, it's also like this huge creative hub. And so can you share maybe a little bit more? I know we have some images too that we can probably share as well, about some of the things that are happening there, given the pandemic and our limited ability to be in person with each other, and how you all have gotten creative with even that as well.
Yeah, sure. So, again, it's a retail space, but to me, more importantly, it's a platform. Not just for us to sell things, but for the community to also be a part of it. So we have everything from book signings to record release parties to fashion shows. I mean, we've had weddings. I mean, we've had, you name it, we've had it, and it's cross disciplines too. It's not just visual art. It's my friends who are comedians. We've had yoga. I mean, it's a little bit of everything. So for me, that's what's most important, that this place can be a vessel to bring different parts of the community together. I think even with the block party, what I realized, because I was in the store every single day checking folks out, I would talk to people who would be dancers who didn't know my friends who were DJs. So I'm like, you don't know this person? Or my friends who were magicians who didn't know this other person who was a writer, And so for me, the block party and the store was a way to bring people from different segments of our community who didn't know one another. And these chances, the chance to have interaction in this physical retail space is what I love the best, And so when we would close, it was difficult for me to be in this virtual space so much, but we did what we could. And I think I gave you a slide of one of my best memories. Somebody had called me and asked me, could she do her piano recital for her kids? And she lost her space, obviously, because everything was closed. and we technically couldn't have folks in the store say, well, we're still going to do it, so let's just do it on the sidewalk, and here we go. And we basically put out a baby grand piano, we rolled it up, we promoted it, and we had these kids come play on the sidewalk. And I was like bringing a tear to my eye, to see these little kids for their first time, having a chance to play. And we made it happen. They still had their recital, and one of the stories that I remember is it was a guy was kind of standing around like watching. You could tell he was down on his luck. He had probably been through a whole bunch of issues, and he was like, "Hey man, can I play the piano?" In between, the segments of the kids playing. And we were like, "Yeah, okay, just hold off a little bit." He kept saying, "No, man, I want to play." And everyone was looking at this guy like, "Wait a minute." And so I said, just let him play, And he sits down and this guy plays like Mozart. I mean, it was like totally like not what anybody expected. This guy had probably a homeless guy, and probably hadn't had a chance to play, But at some point in his life, he wasn't in the situation that he was in right now. At some point, he had obviously had trained. And I was thinking about all the things that got this person from where he was, that he could play so beautifully, to his life right now, and what it meant for him to play for 5 minutes on that piano in front of this random crowd on the sidewalk. So that was the memory that lasted with me. But I think that represents a lot that the store is. It's these magic moments that just kind of happen sometimes. They're not even planned, and it's way beyond the tangible objects that we sell to stay in business and to keep all of this flowing. There's a connection with that too. But the cultural side to me is equally as important, if not more important.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. That's like such a beautiful story. And I wish that I was there on the sidewalk to watch these kids play piano. Because it's just so beautiful to see, like literally on the South Side. So Brandon also has a space. We didn't really talk about Brandon's space, but I do want to ask y'all the question around, so the Obama Presidential Center is coming to the South Side, and it's going to impact the city in a number of ways. And I guess, as business owners, what are some things that you're thinking about as that comes to the city? How do you keep people engaged? And how do you think about the impact, the challenges that might come with that as well?
You want to go, Brandon?
Yeah, I'll go. I think it's important to do things in collaboration um, with those spaces. And I had a conversation with Eric about this a while ago, and because some community members, they had grievances, they had things they wanted to express with it. And he made a really good point. He was just saying that it's important for us to involve ourselves when these things show up, when these things happen. And I think like in many ways, neighborhoods change. Like we grow, things come, things go, and I think that really involving ourselves and finding ways to collaborate and looking at ways that those things of the library can support other businesses is the perspective to have, because they're looking for that. I mean, they reached out to Eric for him to consult what they're doing because he's a business owner in his community, So I think we have to kind of make the most out of it, as he was saying as well. For me, I had a space. I had the invisible space on the south side of Chicago, and we did meditation. We did a lot of things, but actually not having this space is what led me to the meditation series and led me to a lot of things. And it was just such a learning experience, So for me, I look forward to activating the space and doing things inside the space, proposing things to do with the the presidential library, and also looking at the other opportunities that come with that for people who get to come and get to be a part of that, get to be a part of the meditations, get to play, So that's how I see it.
Can you share your thoughts, Eric?
Sure. Wow, a lot of thoughts. The foundation, the center is coming, obviously. And again, I was talking to Brandon about this a few days ago. I just always think of how best to be involved with things that are coming, and this is obviously a super huge project. There's a lot of discussion around it. And I think now is the time to really start to engage now. I think about my space and my little, 1,800 square foot space. and the impact that that's had. It's not about the size of the space; it's about the impact. And I think about the impact that something like the Obama Center can have. And so we talked a few weeks ago. They contacted me to ask me my ideas on how best to engage. And I think just this idea of space. I mean, it sounds like such a simple thing to say. It's such a simple, but the idea of us not having space, especially on the south side of Chicago, is huge. So sometimes you don't have to overprogram things. I mean, I've learned that in my space. I'm like, we have a space the community can program. Everybody has great ideas. They just need a space. So that's kind of what we're talking about is how to best utilize, the center. Um, and as far as the small business goes, how do we have a relationship where they're benefiting and we also are benefiting? We're bringing folks to, their space and we're also a part of that space. Maybe we have pop-up activations in a kiosk, at the center. Maybe there's buses that can transport folks around the community. I mean, all these different kind of ideas that we were discussing. But yeah, I mean, it's coming. So we got to figure out how to be a part of it. And I think they understand that. And so we're starting now having those critical conversations.
Yeah, thank you for that. I want to make sure that we can take some questions from the audience. We had some that were pre-submitted as well. So I'm going to ask one final question to y'all, which is really just about what's next. Like, can you tell us what's brewing, what's happening?
Yeah, I guess I'll go. So for me, a couple of commissions I did, and y'all can cue the slide. So I did a portrait for Senator John Lewis for his book, his last message to the people. Carry On is the title of it, and I'm really proud of it. Proud of just having the opportunity, and then the project. And I'm doing another series of portraits honoring people while they're living that is coming out. It's going to be like murals in 7 different cities. So look out for that too. And just continuing to work, continuing to collaborate, continuing to show work. I plan on being in some group shows coming up, and I'm excited for what's to come.
Awesome. Eric, can you share?
Cool. Got several things going on. I think most immediate is a restaurant, Bronzeville Winery, which I'm working on as we speak. I'm about to go down there after we get done with this and get back to work, So 4400 South Cottage Grove, I'm super excited about the idea of having a beautiful space for us to hang out in our own community in Bronzeville. Everyone I meet lives in Bronzeville. You meet somebody, where do you live? I live on 39th in this. I live on 45th in this. Everybody lives in Bronzeville. So to have our own place to, to go eat and drink and hear some music is just, I'm super excited about it, especially knowing about the history of Bronzeville and what we, the legacy and what it used to be, the halcyon days of, of Bronzeville. I want to bring that now. I want to talk about what's happening right now. So this should be opening late August, September is the plan. So that's my most immediate project. I have another one I'm working on. It's like a co-op market space I'm doing in Logan Square. So yeah, ideas to, we'll have like a little mini silver room and maybe for the businesses, but really different kinds of businesses. Maybe some folks from Mexico, maybe some folks from, different parts of the community, all sharing this space and kind of see what will happen in this, this kind of different kind of concept, And just with the Silver Room Foundation, just being a mentor to folks, asking questions about business, how to, think about financing, marketing, branding their business. I'm always open to talk to people about, about how to survive. I mean, it's been 23 years of our store being open, which is, you don't find many retail stores open, especially Black retail stores, but any kind of retail stores open for 23 years. And we're busier than ever. So I think the model that we've created is a sustainable model because I mean it is a for-profit business. We're not a nonprofit. This side of it, and I say that I say that for a reason that we're not a nonprofit. I think a lot of folks need to see a Black-owned business thrive. In a neighborhood that folks don't always thrive. And so people come in. I'll do talks to them about how to make it in retail and this is like my form of activism through retail, telling stories through T-shirts about Rosa Parks or Octavia Butler, whatever. No, books. Like, how can we use this space as a retail space, but really have a crucial, critical effect on the community? And so I'm just looking forward to doing more of that. And then the block party 2022.
Absolutely.
Planning it now.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm gonna jump into some of these questions that we got from the audience. And I think the first one that Brandon and I kind of started talking about this yesterday is really grounded in, like, what are memories that you have about discovering art, and who inspires you to do the work that you do?
Is that for
That's
Brandon?
yeah. So can you say the first part of that question again? What memories?
Yeah, what are memories you have about discovering art, and who inspires you to do the work you do?
I think for me, memories are associated with it was I was really just drawn to want to create what was around me or what held my interest the most. So my first portrait I did was of my mom. I think I might have been like 5 or something. I was really young. I don't remember, but I was drawing, you know, portraits for, and it wasn't like like a stick head and like it was like I was drawing her face with her glasses and her individual teeth and all of this stuff. So I think I was just really into visuals. But my dad was an artist, and there are other people in my family that were creative too. And I do believe we get the bug, right? It's a certain type of osmosis that happens, right? You just gravitate toward a medium. But that was it. Then cartoons came, so I was drawing characters and things like that. And the first art that I knew of was commercial art, was animation, was all of those things. I didn't have access to museums and these other things. And Ninja Turtles is one of my favorite cartoons. And their names they happen to be named after artists, right? All of the Ninja Turtles. So I love how artists like find ways to hide and inform and then educate youth with the new things. I just want to say that are coming back, because in a lot of ways it is up to us to leave breadcrumbs and to inform folks about things, and not just about the who's who, but just about the world, right? And I think the biggest form of that, which we see today, is like Pixar, and the things that they're able to do, and the emotional connection that they're able to make with people, the lessons and stories that they're able to give in the art that they create to the youth and to educate. So I love that. I love that about art. So that's what kind of how I first got into art. And then the second part of that question was what again? What led
Who inspires you?
who inspired us? Inspiration. Right now, a lot of musicians. I've been looking at a lot of musicians' processes and how they paint pictures with sound. How they reach across different senses, the senses we have, and storytelling. I like, I'm really into great storytellers. And I think our capacity to be able to hold on to information, to be able to be inspired, uplifted, um, and just like, just informed, uplifted, inspired comes in story form. So, storytellers, I would say, musicians for sure, visual artists, I would say right now, um, I'm inspired by a lot of abstract works for whatever reason. And that's just like as much as I want to get into it, because as soon as I get to naming names, it goes into a whole another space. But yeah, multidisciplinary. I like to see how other folks do things.
Awesome. Eric, can you also share your memories about discovering art, and who inspires you to do the work you do?
Good question. I would say the first person I was inspired by, and this is he's an artist, but maybe it is an artist in some ways. It's Bruce Lee. So that was the first person I remember like this wanting to be Bruce Lee, and we all went to go watch movies. Right, Brandon.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I had the poster, from Game of Death, and but he was the guy I wanted to be when I was young. So he got me like wanting to like work out and do push-ups and just be Bruce Lee. Um, Fast forward after that, my father owned the bar, and Herb Kent was one of his first DJs. And so just going to the bar and watching, when I was probably 8, 9 years old, and seeing the magic of music and like what that brought to our community. Because I'm from a town called Robbins, Illinois. Robbins is, it's not a wealthy town by any stretch. But just seeing what music did for people, and just no matter how down and out they would come to my father's bar called Manny's Blue Room, and I named the Silver Room after Manny's Blue Room as an ode to my father, and just have a good time. So I think that was probably the first thing. My uncle, his name is Ronnie Boykins. He played bass for Sun Ra. So Sun Ra would come by the house when I was a young person. I didn't know who he was. I just knew he was like this different kind of guy. It was really nice to my grandmother. But just like that whole vibe they had, this whole like jazz, this avant-garde jazz they were playing. It was, I didn't really get it at the time, but it was just really, really cool. Um, After that, I would say fashion, Elsa Clinch. For those of you who don't know who Elsa Clinch is, before CNN was just Anderson Cooper and Don Lemon all day, they had this show called CNN Style. And this is back in the 80s. And my mom, she would have W Magazine, Vogue Magazine. She had all these magazines. And I just wanted to be around my mother. So we watched, CNN Style with Elsa Clinch. This is back in the day of like, Cindy Crawford when Valentino was just, it was like that rich, that real fashion from the 80s. And I just still getting goosebumps. I love Elsa Clinch and just watching this fashion. And then after that, I would say Frankie Knuckles and Ron Hardy. Just growing up in the 80s and hearing house music and going to the clubs. And again, just seeing how music brought everybody together. People who probably would not want to be in the same room with each other, and they wouldn't be if not for this love of music. So I think those are things that inform me, from fashion to, to music to everything. That still informs me now how I think about the space.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I feel like I'm always love to hear the story about your father owning the bar and then you naming the Silver Room afterwards. Also because I'm very familiar with Robin, so that makes me very, very happy. I'm gonna ask one more question to close us out, which is from the audience as well. And they asked, how has politics and the pandemic affected the way that you see and experience art as an artist and maybe even as a viewer?
You want to start, Eric?
Sure. How has politics affected art? Well, that's a lot of ways I could probably answer this question. I could think about policy probably more than politics. And just, when the pandemic hit, we tried to be a resource for a lot of the artists, to say, because I was getting hit up by, folks in the city of Chicago and nationally. Here's a grant, that's available. Um, Here's some resources for mental health. So for me, it was trying to be more of a resource, but also because my background is in business and I work at the intersection of business and arts and culture. I think more about business than probably a lot of my artist friends, and I implore them to think about business and policy and politics. I know people want to shy away from that, but you can't move and you can't get around if your building is not zoned right to do something there. So for me, it's just really trying to talk to my friends who are artists about the importance of being involved and going to these community meetings. You might not want to do it, but you have to show up because they only care about you if you're going to vote. So that's the connection I would make is just trying to use a platform to help folks understand the importance of politics and policy.
Awesome.
For me, I think a lot just became more visible. I think a lot of people, as to what Eric was saying about policy, became a lot more aware, a lot more in tune, at least from what I noticed about how policy does impact them, how the voting process is important, and I was left with understanding that, also just really present to just present to how we portray in the media, and really thinking about that, and I think the meditations, a lot when I started doing the group outdoor meditations, a lot of that inspired. There's so many images of Black folks in distress on television, in the media, and you can't help but to think about how that imagery affects people, young children, people. There's a programming within that too. So I began to be interested in, like, what does it feel like to experience Black folks engaging in a regenerative process publicly, and that's what the meditations sort of became about, like these performance pieces of Black people engaging in a regenerative life practice for health, well-being, peace. And I think that's what, I came out of it with. It caused me to explore a lot of my beliefs and be a little bit more curious on both sides about even when things I don't necessarily agree with, and the importance of curiosity and being curious, even when people don't share the same perspective, almost like, especially when people don't share the same, but still being curious. I think a lot of us feel that we're open-minded, but we're living in a world that consistently pampers us and caters to the beliefs we already have. Social, that is like social media, right? It's like you get to live in your belief system and you get to cancel whatever is outside of that belief system you have, and the algorithms help you. And I don't think, I think at a certain point we're not living in reality. And I think my theory is that the lack of privacy is costing us our autonomy. And I think it's telling us how to think. It's like even programming us to a certain degree, what to buy, what to believe in, all of these things. So I just went into a deep, just thinking about all of that, and that's what my work has been about, and what I've been kind of trying to figure out how to articulate how I feel and where I am with that right now. Yeah, but that's one of the main things, just making sure that we make room for curiosity, for growth, personally, individually, and the whole, we can't change this world unless we start from within, within and without. And it's not to say that any issues are only ours to bear, but I mean, I think that's a huge part of it. And I think it goes back to the regenerative thing, like finding life practices that are healthy, that are regenerative. I talked to Eric a little while ago about therapy, like interested in, okay, cool, I need a consistent therapy session for what I'm doing now, in my life. And he shared a whole list of Black therapists resources for me too. So I think that's important too. Went kind of all over the place, but that's what came to me.
Thank you. Thank you. Eric, you want to add anything else?
No, I just wanted to commend Brandon, for talking about mental health and sharing his story publicly. That was the thing I thought about first when I met him. I'm like, man, he's vulnerable, and it's really cool. He's much younger than me, and it's a different generation. And folks my age, we didn't do that back in the day. And he's made talking about mental health and and through art and through his practice, something that people do now. And I think he's been a big part of this discussion in the city and nationally. I just wanted to make it.
Awesome, thank you. And I feel like that's a really beautiful place to close us out. So thank you to you both again so much for joining us for this conversation. This program has been presented in conjunction with the exhibition, The Obama Portraits, which are on view through August 15th. And if you want more information about our upcoming virtual events, you can visit us online at artic.edu and look out for our monthly e-news in your inboxes. And so thank you all again so much for being here. Thank you a million times to Eric and Brandon for sharing your time and your greatness with us. And we look forward to seeing everybody again soon. Take care, y'all.
Thank you.